Thank you, Ms Werner. So we got to the types of things the Minister will take into account in assessing a preliminary draft master plan, and that included noise and a whole suite of things under the Act. Yep.
Yes, Senator.
Besides the Department and Minister, who else provides input or comment on the preliminary draft master plan?
I'm not aware that the preliminary draft master plan has a particular status under the Act.
What happens? Who is allowed input into it?
The state or territory government in which the airport is located, the local government or local governments affected by or in which the airport is located.
Yep.
Members of the community who wish to make a comment, anyone who is affected by the development at the airport, so tenants would have the opportunity to comment, potentially ground transport operators would have a chance to comment. I've just been advised that it's provided for public exhibition, so any member of the public would have the opportunity to comment.
For the preliminary, and is that a recent change?
No, Senator.
Okay, that's been. Is there a process whereby Air Services and CASA provide a response?
Air Services and CASA certainly have the opportunity to comment on major development plans. I'm not sure about master plans, though.
Could you take that on notice?
Certainly, Senator.
My understanding is up until recently, no external organisation has provided any comment on the preliminary draft master plan. It might be once it's gone through other process, but if you could just check that on notice, I'd appreciate. What prompted the changes that Air Services and CASA now provide a response?
Senator, are we talking about the Melbourne Major Development Plan, Melbourne Airport Major...
No, Moorabbin.
Moorabbin.
But I'm going to the process of draft plans approval that haven't really got to the detail of Moorabbin yet. I'm trying to understand the process.
Right.
So my understanding is that Air Services and CASA's input is quite a new addition, and I was wondering whether you could tell me why Air Services and CASA now provide public feedback to preliminary draft plans.
I'm unable to provide you with that advice, Senator. There have been no recent amendments to the Airports Act. The only way that CASA and Air Services would be able to provide comment outside of the Airports Act, I suppose, would be if the Minister issued a request for information to them and they responded to that. I'm not aware of that having happened at Moorabbin.
Well, I think in 2018 there was an accident at Essendon Airport, which is in the middle of suburban Melbourne, where an aircraft collided with a shopping centre.
Yes.
And one of the deficiencies noted in that investigation and report was the lack of input from CASA and Air Services had in the construction of buildings around airport land. And so changes were made on who is consulted. CASA and Air Services now being required to.
I'm afraid I don't have any information on that change, Senator. I'd have to take it on notice.
And could I clarify, Senator, are you talking about the major development plan or the master plan? Because the processes are slightly different. And the
I was actually talking about the preliminary draft master plan.
The preliminary draft master plan. Okay. So we don't have detailed information of what happened on the preliminary draft master plan. We can take that on notice for you and get back to you.
Yep. there's a lot of people in and around Moorabbin Airport, on Moorabbin Airport, who are very concerned with changes to the draft plan post it being not approved by one minister, changes being made and it not going out for additional consultation on those changes, which several people believe will have a material impact on operations. And so I'm wanting to understand why we wouldn't actually go back to those additional public submissions to a fresh draft master plan for Moorabbin Airport.
So the reason that we haven't done that, Senator, is because we're unable to compel Moorabbin Airport to do that.
So, have you got legal advice to suggest that, Ms Werner?
Well, I couldn't comment on the content of legal advice, Senator.
Why? Is it a public interest immunity issue?
Well, just generally we don't disclose the content of our legal advice, but I am telling you that we cannot compel them to consult on the revised master plan at Moorabbin under the Airports Act.
So what would need to change in the Airports Act for that to happen?
Well, there would need to be a provision. So under the Airports Act, if the minister rejects a master plan, then the proponent is able to submit a fresh draft master plan. The Airports Act would need to be amended to require that the fresh draft master plan also needs to be subject to public consultation. At the moment, that provision does not appear in the Airports Act.
But surely that's a choice.
Indeed. Sorry, the legislation would need to be amended.
But,
yes.
but does the legislation prohibit?
No, but it doesn't require, and we can't compel.
No, it doesn't require. The minister could consult.
The minister is not the proponent of the master plan.
No, I appreciate she's not the proponent.
It's for the airport lessee company to consult on the master plan.
Who signs off on the master plan?
It's the minister who decides whether to approve a master plan.
And ministers can take advice from departments, they can take advice from community, they can take advice from staff, they can take advice from other ministers. Can't they?
Yes, Senator, they can.
Yeah, that's right. So there's nothing actually precluding the minister. It's not a requirement on Moorabbin Airport to undertake consultation in the Act. So they're not going to do it because they don't see it in their interest. But nothing precludes Minister King from engaging in this. Is there something, if she was to receive, if she was of a mind to understand that the public disquiet or the council's disquiet, like what powers does she have then if she's of a different view to Moorabbin Airport about the draft plan?
Vis-a-vis consultation.
Vis-a-vis approving a draft plan she doesn't agree with.
Well, her alternative is to reject it.
And just continuing to reject it.
Yes.
But she can give them advice on what would make it acceptable.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
She has to deliver a statement of reasons which explains why she's rejected it.
Okay, thank you. Was the department made aware of Kingston City Council had legal advice that they'd shared with the minister?
Yes, Senator.
And what did that legal advice say?
Senator, I don't have any notes on that. I'm going from memory, but Kingston City Council took a different view from us and was of the view that this did require a fresh round of consultation.
So I've got competing legal advice at 20 paces. How unusual. Our entire legal system's built on that. What does the minister think? She's got a set of legal advice from you, legal advice that she's been made aware of, yes? From Kingston City Council?
Yes, Senator. She's got legal advice from
multiple sources.
Well,
yep.
She's got legal advice from her lawyers, yes, and she's accepted that advice.
Right. Did she seek a meeting? Has she had a meeting with Kingston City Council?
Not that I'm aware of, Senator, but I'd have to check.
Yeah, if you could check, that would be fantastic. Has she had a meeting with General Aviation businesses in Moorabbin Airport?
Not that I'm aware of, Senator. I'd have to check with her office.
And in terms of receiving two competing pieces of legal advice?
The Minister received one piece of legal advice from her lawyers. Kingston City Council received its own legal advice, and the two pieces of legal advice differed.
Yeah, no, I get that. And she chose to accept
the advice. Did
the minister get?
Yes.
Did the brief that went up to the minister, or the advice that went to the minister, critique the Kingston City Council's advice, or just give?
We sought legal advice on Kingston City Council's
okay.
legal advice. Yes, Senator.
Thank you. Was this discussed with the local member for Moorabbin?
I have no information as to that.
Did
Senator.
Minister King meet with the Attorney General, Mr. Dreyfus?
Not that I'm aware of, Senator. No. But I'd have to.
Yeah, if we could take on notice the correspondence between the Attorney General and this, not the legality, but as a local member,
yes,
and a member of Victoria, because my understanding is he has had meetings with this community. Has there been a regulatory impact study? Oh no. What has there been sort of is part of the white paper a macro look at the number of airports required across Australia?
I think
and their locations, because we've got quite a few in the middle of suburban areas now.
I think that would go to the content of the white paper, which hasn't been released.
I don't want to know what the decision is on that. Has it been something that's been canvassed?
I think, again, that would go to the content of the white paper.
That's me done for Moorabbin Airport.
Can I just ask a follow-up?
Go for it.
Who was the responsible department official on Moorabbin? Is it you, Ms Vernon?
No, Senator, this was well before my time, I'm afraid. The responsible departmental official at the time, I'm sorry, I'd have to take that on notice.
But the decision's been made, it's not still ongoing, the master plan?
No, the decision's
review
been made.
Has been made. Have any of the officials at the table been out to Moorabbin Airport?
I haven't, Senator.
I haven't, Senator.
No. It would be instructional to go out and see what a disaster it is, the master planning process, and what an outrageous decision has been made over many years to allow the development of that site that's driven out general aviation. It is absolutely appalling, and I would suggest that Mr Betts, you or some of your department take an interest in what's happening to these airports right across Australia. It's a national embarrassment.